So my last 24 hours or so have been filled with some rather unsettling news. First, like many of you, I'm concerned about what we see going on in the Middle East as conflict has erupted with Iran. When tensions rise and violence escalates for whatever reason, the world seems fragile and the future seems uncertain. And on a more personal note, last night I was at Parma Hospital saying goodbye to my uncle and godfather. He's begun hospice care and death is very near. When you sit in a hospital room like that, struggling to find the right words to say, everything suddenly becomes very real and faith can feel uncertain. And it's in moments like these, whether global instability or a quiet hospital room, that we have to ask ourselves, do I trust God here? Not in general, not in theory, but right here in this moment, do I trust God? And that's exactly where today's readings meet us. In the first reading, God says to Abram something kind of unsettling. God says, "Go forth from the land of your kinsfolk to a land that I will show you." Notice what God does not do. He doesn't hand Abram a map. He doesn't explain the timeline. He doesn't describe the obstacles he will face. He simply says, "Go." And somehow that's enough. Abram leaves behind what is familiar, what's comfortable, what's secure, not because he understands everything, but because he trusts the one who's calling him. That is faith. You see, faith isn't just belief in the mind. That's what we call believism. But faith is trust in the heart and obedience in our actions. Faith is stepping forward when you do not see the whole road ahead. And that now brings us to today's gospel. Peter, James, and John are taken up a high mountain, and there Jesus is transfigured before them. His face shines like the sun, his clothes become dazzling white, and the voice of the Father says, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." For a moment, everything seems clear for the three apostles. This is who Jesus is. This is glory. This is certainty. But the transfiguration's not the end. They still have to come down the mountain. Just a few days later, they will walk toward Jerusalem. They will witness betrayal and suffering, and they will see the cross. The vision of the transfiguration is not the destination, it's simply preparation. Just like Abram, they're not given the whole plan. They're given just enough light for the next step. And they must choose whether to trust, they must choose to have faith. And that's where these readings come together for us. You see, faith isn't something that can simply be handed on to us. It's not something we inherit from our parents like our eye color. It can't be absorbed just because we grew up in a Catholic home. At some point, every one of us must decide for ourselves. Abram had to decide to go. The apostles had to decide to follow. And today, 12 members of our parish family are about to make that decision publicly. Today, we welcome 12 candidates into full communion with the church. They will profess the faith, be confirmed, and receive the Eucharist for the first time. Now, some of us were baptized as infants and raised in the church from the beginning. They were not. But in truth, what they're doing today is something that every Catholic must do. They are choosing. They are saying, I believe, I trust, and I will follow. And that choice is deeply personal, because God doesn't force faith upon us. If he wanted mere belief, he could overwhelm us with undeniable proof. But belief isn't what he wants. He wants trust. And trust can never be coerced. It must be freely given. That's why faith is always a response. Abram moved geographically. The apostles moved from fear toward courage. And today our candidates move sacramentally. And each of us is being invited to move too. Maybe for some of us, faith has become comfortable, familiar, almost automatic. We know the prayers, we know where to sit, we know when to stand, we know when to kneel. But the question of Lent and the question of these readings is not whether we know about God. The question is, do we trust him enough to go where he leads? To leave behind our comfort zones, to trust him when the world feels unstable, to trust him in a hospital room when someone we love is nearing the end. We do not yet understand how deeply we can trust God. Because remember, if God cannot be trusted in our suffering, then he's not truly God. If he can't be trusted in our sin, then he's not truly the Savior. And if he can't be trusted in our darkest moments, then our faith remains shallow. When the headlines disturb us, when nations are in conflict, when hospital rooms fall quiet, and the future feels fragile, remember, faith is not knowing everything. Faith is not seeing the whole road, and it's not having every one of our doubts resolved. Faith is taking the next step because you trust the one who calls you. Today, 12 people in our parish take that step in a visible and beautiful way, and the rest of us are quietly invited to do the same. Whether you're entering the church today or whether you've sat in these pews your entire life, the invitation is the same as it was for Abram. Go. Leave behind a faith that is borrowed. Leave behind a faith that is merely cultural. Leave behind a faith that is comfortable but unmoving. And entrust yourself fully to the God who calls us by name. Because in the end, faith is not something given to us once and for all. It's something we choose day after day, again and again.